Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Coming to you live. Yes, we are live. Hey, once again, it was questionable. I'll tell you here in a little bit as we bring back our very special guest, Sasha. She'll be joining us here in a few moments, and for those long-time listeners, you'll understand the significance of that one. But yes, we had a little thunderstorm roll through the area, and it was questionable if Sasha was going to be back on. Gotta laugh. You definitely have to laugh at that one. Wow, some great things going on here in the studio in the Midnight Ocean as we get the ship prepared to sail off into the evening. Had an excellent conversation with the fine folks at Telos Alliance. For you that don't know who Telos is probably one of the bigger audio companies for radio broadcasting equipment. Gave us such a great deal, but we need your help. Let me tell you why. For those that don't know, for those that are new, and we'll get to you guys here, for those that are joining us for the first time, trust me, we'll get to you here in a few minutes. But for those that do know that we are working with a syndicator. And part of the syndication process is that we need to bring our equipment up to a radio standard. Now, what we do here is great for podcasting. I will have to say that we probably have one of the cleanest podcasting solutions out there. But as hard as we try, it still doesn't meet the standard of radio. So we are working with Telos Alliance to purchase that equipment and one of their vendors here in Ocala, Florida. Actually, it's kind of crazy. It's my back door. One of the better known distributors of their product. So I spoke with them at length today. We worked with the Telos Alliance Engineering to put together a solution. This is like a full radio studio configuration and setup. It's not cheap. I have to go to one of my children and ask him what one does not want to attend college. But, no, I'm joking. But we had a very long and fruitful conversation about the equipment. So we're growing. That's good news, right? That we are growing our show. And the way that we're growing our show is now getting to you guys on YouTube who are new to the show. First time listeners. Thank you. Thank you for joining us tonight. But more importantly, thank you for allowing us to earn your listenership, especially in the late night hours. We appreciate it. Now, one way that you can support us to help us grow the station is if you're joining us on YouTube, make sure that you hit that ever most important subscribe button. That means a lot to us. That shows our potential advertisers, people that are going to help us fund this operation, that there are people willing to listen to the show. And that we put a product that people want to listen to, especially in the late night hours. So hit that subscribe button. If you are on Facebook, if you're a social media individual and you're into that type of communication, you can join us out on Facebook by typing in the Midnight Ocean The other thing that you can do that will help us also is become a midnight listener. A midnight listener is and you just type in midnight listener, all one word, in Facebook. And that is a way that fellow listeners can communicate to each other, post things. And that is the way that I can communicate with you directly. One of the things that we try very hard to do is make sure that we include our audience, our listeners into our shows. Now, it was very important when I was talking to Telos today that we bring you, the listener, back to the show, not only with your ears, but with your ideas and your suggestions, and also interactions with our very special guests. And one of the pieces of equipment that we're going to do is going to allow us to bring in 8 phone lines, or should I say 8 concurrent lines, and 8 Skype lines. That's right. So that will give us a total of 16 different ways that we can have listeners on and callers, both in Skype and traditional phone. So that's pretty cool. So it's also talking about Skype. If you go out to our website, themidnightocean.com, there is in the upper right-hand side by the Facebook and all the icons there, you will see a Skype button. You can click that button when we open the phone lines, and it will take you directly to us. So that's another feature that we have added. If you are listening to the show on a mobile phone or a mobile device, you can scroll down. The way mine works is that you have to scroll down and you'll see that in the menu. You see the little Skype, the little S symbol. Click that. And if you have Skype installed on your phone, it will allow you to communicate directly to us. That's when we open the phone lines. Under our current configuration, we can only have, and we're going to fix this here in the next day or so, but we can only have either our guest or our listener on the Skype line. So, and I do apologize for that. But we will be enhancing our network here at the Ocean to include you, the listener, as well. But getting back to the matter at hand, the reason why you are here, just doing a little house cleaning there, is we have on the line, on the Skype line currently, the lovely Miss Sasha. Now, for those that don't know, let me give you a little bit of backstory, and I'm just going to bring Sasha on now so we can get this party going. But, and she can hear. So the bring back, and she can have a chuckle like the rest of us. But, so for those that don't know, Sasha was our guest the night that the Hurricane Hermes hit. And we were doing great. We were struggling. I was shocked that we got as far into the night as we did. But at about 1:30, we had a boom in the studio. Something hit something. And then the internet started to go on the fritz. And luckily the internet came back on long enough for me to say, I think in a panic, Sasha, was gotta go. Hurricane just hit. And we were off the air. And then we were off the air for about three or 4 days after that with no power. So Sasha was kind enough to come back. So Sasha, you actually have two things going. I want to say to your credit. Number one, you were live on the air when we got hit by the hurricane. Number
right?
one. Yeah, that's
hello first, Jeff. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I should do an intro, but I'm just going to jump right into the conversation. But yeah, Sasha, welcome back.
Welcome. Thank you. I wanted to make sure I had a formal hello to you in the audience.
I'm sorry. You know, what happens is that you get comfortable with certain people and you just like think everybody, you know how it's like a party.
Right. Oh, no, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I felt comfortable with you. You and I were talking about the music that we were listening to right before coming on the show.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I'll share. Yeah, I'll share that. I was listening to Pink. I love Pink. I'm sorry. And I'm sure there's some guys out there say, "Oh, turn in your man card." I don't care. I love her. I love her music. I think she's just a, if you really think about it and you listen to her music, it's empowering. And, you know, I know a lot of people say, well, it's empowering females and stuff, but no, I get empowered by her music and her strength and everything. So yeah, I love Pink. And then I follow that up with a good dose of AC/DC.
Now that is really manly.
That is it. Well, that's the get your, you know, because it is. I love doing the show, so I really don't need a whole lot of motivation. I don't need a whole lot to get me going, to get me on the air, because I love talking to guests. I wish there's times where I wish, believe it or not, I wake up and I'm like, I can't wait till the show starts because I get to talk to really interesting people such as yourself. So, but, yeah, so going back to, for those, like I said, that are new, because some of you guys don't know, when the hurricane hit, Sasha was on the air and we literally got blown off the air. And I think it was during a critical time of our conversation because you were getting, I don't want to say bad mojo, or, I mean, what was going on your end?
No, it was not bad mojo, but I do recall sharing in the introduction that typically when I talk or address alternative topics, usually something goes wrong with the technology, the energy, the weather, and I got kicked off those shows. And it just happened that I wasn't aware that the weather was going to get that bad.
Yeah.
And we didn't make it to the end, but we were at a critical point in the conversation talking about different types of energy. Yes. And you kept on asking me, what am I feeling? And I just kept on feeling my body temperature rising. And I'm thinking it's only a matter of time. Everything's going to go all black out.
And it did. I mean,
it did.
Yeah, and that was strange because even the meteorologists and the people don't know. I mean, they way underestimated this storm. We had a 9 to 12 foot storm surge, and I live about a mile off of the Gulf. Now I have about a mile of bayou or swamp or whatever they want to call it here in Florida between me and the Gulf. And so we had that buffer. Now there's a small community right on the Gulf that got completely wiped out. I mean, they're still, digging out and everything because like a 9 to 12 foot storm surge. And I tell my listeners, think about the room that you're in right now. That's 8 foot ceilings. So think about a wall of water that's a foot over that at minimum and possibly 3 feet at maximum coming at you. It's just amazing that no one died. No one, thank God we lost a lot of property, a lot of damage, but no one was hurt. And, I mean, I even lost my boat. It looks like the insurance company is going to salvage my boat. 10-ton sport fisher got picked straight up and laid right on the dock, and on the piling, and it didn't do any structural damage, but of course the boat filled with water. It was underwater for a while. So
wow.
Yeah, these things happen. That's why we have insurance, right? But, yeah, like you said, and it was building, and that's the funny thing, because we didn't talk about the weather or anything. So it kind of hit us sideways. Obviously we knew that we had the hurricane coming, but we thought it was just going to be a windstorm. And it was quite devastating. But throughout the night that we were talking, it was kind of like building for you, the energy. You were picking up on that energy pretty quickly. And, well documented too, by the way. For those that don't believe us, go back and listen to the show and you'll hear Sasha say, what's going on? I think about an hour before we got cut off, about midnight, you were like, hey, Jeff, I'm getting really, really hot.
No, my body temperature was literally rising. And I think when I went back in archives and listened to the show, I think it was a great show. Because I know we talked about a couple of different topics, but I know that in the audience, people kept on picking up my voice vibrating and fluctuating. But when you replay it, at least I sounded normal, I think.
Yeah. No, it does. It's really weird. You talk about that. I actually, today I worked with my voice. I have a voice coach. Yes. When you're in this business, you have to learn to take care. It's like an athlete. You have to learn to take care of your voice, especially when you do 4 hours a night of talking. So it's amazing because I talked to my voice coach and she even says, she goes, I can hear when you're on the phone. I can hear the differences in your voice, but then when you go onto the air, it's not completely different, but it's different. A lot of those tones, a lot of those things go away. And she said, I don't know if it's because of the way you focus for the show and the fact that you're engaged in conversation. So that changes a lot of things. It's strange. I told her it's because of the audio processing. The audio before it goes out live actually goes through about 4 or 5 different processors and takes out a lot of the artifacts, as they would say. So I don't know. It's just one of those technology.
I think it's great that you work with a coach. I've been meaning to work with a coach, but because I need to take care of a minor breathing problem, I figured after I have the surgery, I'll find me a coach and work with them, because I acquired education that based off how we breathe, it also impacts how we sound.
Yes.
And because of that, I've been holding off on it, but I will get to that. But I think it's great that you work with a coach, because I know that I need one.
One of the coolest things you can do right now, and she has me doing it, and there's video, there's audio, or not video, there's YouTube videos out there, and anybody can do this. She even says, because I suffer from sleep apnea as well, and she said, look, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to replace your sleep apnea machine. But she goes, if you do these exercises, she goes, you might find that you might not need it. And one of the things that she has me doing is it's called the Titsy straw method, where you take a bar straw and you put it between your lips and you actually hum like a kazoo through this straw, and you change pitch and you go up and down. And that is basically it's like a strengthening of your lungs. And since she has me doing that, I've been doing that for about a week. I can tell that my lung endurance is a lot greater. Now, one of the things too that people that listen to me on a normal basis will know that I'm probably pausing a lot more. That's the other thing that she's got me doing, is working on my breathing technique, because the concern is that I am going to wear my vocal cords out if I continue to do how I've been doing it. So yeah, when you're ready, and I had a voice coach at Northwestern when I first moved to Chicago, because I had a real Southern twang. I can't even do it.
Really?
I can't do it now because, I grew up, in Tennessee. So I had that Southern twang. And when I moved to Chicago, a lot of people looked at me funny, and treated it. It's amazing how people treat you according to the way that you sound. And, when I came across as a dumb redneck, as a hillbilly, and because I had that real deep Southern twang. So I worked with a voice coach at Northwestern University and got rid of that. It's almost to the point today where it's hard for me to repeat that, to bring back that twang, that Southern accent.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how long did it take you? Did it take over a period of a year for you to slowly phase it out?
Yeah. Well, how do I say? To get rid of the twang, I think about 6 months. Yeah. To get rid of the north. And you go through phases where during the 6 months, I went from Southern to Boston. I sounded like I had a Boston accent. Because what you do is how you shift your mouth and your lips. And, in America, we actually talk laterally with our mouths. So one of the things that, in other words, our mouths move laterally across our face. So one of the exercises that she helped to get me to get rid of the Southern was to get my mouth moving up and down as well. Which it's crazy, especially when you do, video like I do of the show. I watch my videos and I can see where I exaggerate my mouth movement. And I think that's because of the training. And I look at it and I'm sitting there going, and it's usually on words that I would normally, Southernize. Get a little long in length there, but so it will take a while. But that was one of the things that I'm working on now is my breathing technique, and so I can go longer. It's like a long distance runner. I just do it with my voice because it's hard to talk 4 hours. No, I don't want to say nonstop. The other thing though is coffee. I found out that coffee is it's not as bad as smoking, but coffee's up there. I don't know. I told her, I said, as long as this is really bad. When I was looking for a voice coach, I interviewed like 3 different coaches, and the ones that said you can't drink coffee, okay, see ya.
You mean coffee before your show time?
Coffee before, throughout the day. So apparently coffee dries your vocal cords. It's a diuretic, so it's naturally going to dry you out. Anything with caffeine. You.
I learned the hard way.
Yeah. Anything with caffeine. It's not just coffee. It's anything with caffeine. I'm not a soda drinker, so coffee is the thing for me. And so the trick, I guess, is my current coach is telling me the trick for me is to make sure that if I drink 4 cups of coffee, I have to drink 8 cups to 12 cups of water to rehydrate the vocal cords. So yeah, she hired. The minute she told me, she's like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what you can drink and can't drink. I'm like, you're hired.
I have learned the hard way by being on BBS radio, and I've had, I think, 2 segments. By the end, I was literally croaking, and I couldn't talk. And I learned not to drink anything which has dairy or coffee related before showtime because it will dry you out.
Yep.
But a hot cup of water goes a long way. Yeah,
it's all about moisture. I mean, I don't want to give all her secrets away to people because that's how she makes a living. But one of the things too is that, the water obviously hydrates, and the way that you breathe. Now, I will tell you that straw method for building your lung capacity up is huge. I can't tell you, like right now I'm talking and I don't feel strained at all. Not at all. And it's because I'm using muscles that are stronger and larger than what I was using. The other thing is that I'm not talking in the back of my throat. I'm actually talking in the front of my mouth, which takes the pressure off the larynx or off the throat itself. And you can tell. And, what's really strange is that when I talk with the front of my mouth, or, as she says, talk with the front of your mouth, I don't have the raspiness in my voice that I normally do. And I can even hear it in my headset. So it's cool. She's really, when you're ready, especially those that are, fellow podcasters out there, very reasonable. You don't have to go to her office. She's actually in Austin, Texas. But when you guys are ready, I'll give you her information. She's, so far today, we had a great conversation and work with her once a week. And hopefully you guys will know the difference. You'll hear the difference as I try to. Right now, I'm trying to work on my diction. In other words, projecting my voice and actually speaking where you can understand me instead of mumbling. so that's where it's at. But yeah, no, she seems pretty, and she's done a lot of broadcasts and she's done a lot of TV, people, fairly well known. She comes very highly recommended in the broadcast industry. She's one of the top ones. So, but, guess what? We just blew through our first break, Sasha. So let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll finish up our conversation about the types of energy with our very special guest. And oh, by the way, you don't have to go on mute anymore. We fixed the board since you were last on, so I can actually control you. so hang loose, and then we'll be back in about 4 minutes, and we'll talk with our very special guest, Sasha, and the types of energies before we were so rudely interrupted by Hurricane Hermes. But you're listening to the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Hang in there. We'll be back.
Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
is right, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us here live every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on the web at www.themidnightocean.com. If you are on YouTube, listening to us on YouTube, it is so important that you hit that ever most important red button in the right-hand corner called subscribe. That's our way of letting you know that new shows come out. Now, we do this every weeknight, 5 times a week. So, but just in case you need a little advance warning, if you're a subscription to YouTube, it will send out that notice to you. And of course, on Facebook, you can always type in The Midnight Ocean in the Facebook search window, find us there, join our page, like our page, do whatever you want to do. It's a free country. But that helps us out tremendously. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter following has grown quite a bit in the last couple of weeks. Thank you. We'll give shout outs a little bit later on in the show. So stay tuned. You might hear your name. But right now, I want to formally introduce our very special guest. Sasha is a spiritualist, brings over 15 years of experience to the commercial and spiritual realm by working with private and commercial clients, hosting diverse backgrounds and life endeavors. As a seasoned MBA professional, she also specializes in organizational and human behavior, which grants her a broad base from which to approach many topics. These tools drive her corporate career by executing diverse business strategies in complex and evolving environments. As a life strategist and business coach, she works with clients ready to transform their lives by offering customized sessions relevant to their needs. Welcome back, Sasha. There you go. Now that's how you do an intro.
Hi, Jeff. Thank you for having me back.
That's how you do an intro. Yeah, I was sitting there over the break going, you know what? As a pilot, they call it pilotage. The art of pilotage. There's just certain things that you have to do, you know, when flying an airplane. And as a broadcaster, especially as a guest, there's just certain things that one should do. And that is always introduce the guest, because I can't assume people know who you are. They should, though. There's no reason for them not to. Shame on them.
Oh, please.
Oh, Lord. So we almost didn't have a show tonight, Sasha. I was going to tell you, a thunderstorm rolled through the area. I was sitting there, relaxing in the pool. I try now to get out and do about an hour a day in the pool, you know, just to exercise. And that's my form of exercise. And I heard the thunder roll and I was like, oh no, it's coming. And then it came right off the Gulf, and we get some violent thunderstorms that come off the Gulf. So I'm sitting there the whole time going, we're going to get hammered. So I'm watching the weather, and luckily about 7:00 it blew over us. And I was like, oh, thank you. I can't.
Well, good to hear, because I know the first thing I did when I began my day was let me reach out to him and confirm if we're going to have a show.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure I don't bring any odd energy where I get kicked off again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the problem is because we are so close to the Gulf that, you know, the weathermen just say, look, you got a 30% chance of rain. They don't tell you why, where, whatever. It's just because you live where we live. You get the east currents coming off and they hit that wall there at the Gulf, and we get some tremendous thunderstorms here. And I can't fault the weathermen because they don't know when I lived in Wisconsin and in Illinois, I used to get so aggravated. If I wanted this is how I knew what the weather was going to be like. I'd never watched the news. I had friends in Minnesota and I would call them and say, hey, what's it doing there? And they were like, oh, it's snowing. So I knew I had 10 hours before we got snow. That's how I did the weather there. But down here in Florida, you just, especially on the Gulf side, you don't know when you're going to get a thunderstorm because it's a matter of the east hitting the west and then building up right there. I mean, we literally, you can see a line. It's amazing that you can actually see a line of when the Gulf starts by the clouds because that cold current hits that warm water. The Gulf right now is about 90 degrees temperature.
That's warm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always warm. The Gulf, a lot of people don't realize this, that the Gulf, so the rule of thumb is this. For every mile you go out, it's a foot deeper. So your first mile, it's only a foot. And that's about right. That's at low tide. That's about right. And if you want to go out, if you go out 5 miles into the Gulf, it's only 5 to 7 feet deep. So the rule of thumb is we're on a plate, and the rule of thumb is for every mile you go out, that's how it gets a foot deeper per mile. And that is about right. If you want to get about 26 foot of water, you have to go out about 26 miles. So the Gulf, or especially around Florida where we're at, it's very shallow, very shallow. We walk in it all the time. I don't know if that's a good idea because there's nothing like a bull shark coming up to you. That will wake you up, get you out of the water pretty quick.
Well, Florida often makes the news, but all of those surprises coming out of the water.
Yeah. Oh, you got to be crazy to swim in the Gulf. I tell people that all the time. You're insane. This stuff. I mean, I go fishing all the time, and the bull sharks, and it's crazy. People that go swimming in the Gulf are nuts. I'm a firm believer that you're just insane. And for me, I don't like swimming in the Atlantic because the rip currents are so bad. On the Atlantic side, we go to Daytona. I got pulled out. I was there with my girls, and I was like, oh, I'm going to dive in, do the dive. And I came out 20, 30 yards from where I dove because the current sucked me out. And my lifeguard skills kicked in. When I was younger, one of the many careers I had, well, in college, I took advanced life-saving lifeguard. That was my elective. That was my gym elective. And it kicked in, but it was hard to walk sideways in that rip current. And luckily, I was getting to the point where I was ready to yell out for help. And I have no desire of going out that way. So I don't even, everybody now, when we go to Daytona to visit family, they all go down to the beach, and I'm like, I'm not going to that water.
Well, that's the thing about Mother Nature that sometimes people underestimate it. But at the end of the day, regardless of what the weather is, Mother Nature wins.
Yeah. You always lose. And that's actually a great segue. I noticed, I'm going to ask you this. After the hurricane, now granted, we had no power. So, I had to sleep because we're at 90, 95, 96 degrees outside and 98% humidity. And you want to talk about oppressive heat. So we had no power for several days we're used to the 72 air conditioner, 72 degrees air conditioner. So I actually slept in our pool. Literally, I went out and slept in the pool. But I noticed that even after things got back to normal, I was drained of all my energy for about 4 days. Literally. It's almost like that hurricane, when it came through, it sucked. Not only did it, the energy, because hurricanes are massive. People don't understand the amount of energy in a hurricane. And if we could harness that, we could generate, the energy in a thunderstorm, we could light a city for a year, is what the scientists say. The actual physical energy there. But I can tell you, when it came through here, it sucked all of my body energy. away from me. I was sluggish. I didn't want to do anything. It was weird. It was the weirdest. It was the strangest feeling. And, have you ever experienced that, or have you ever heard of that ever happening with people?
Yes, I feel now and then, depending on what's going on around us, just energetically, because you and I discussed that everything is energy. There are times where I come across people in waves that may, around the same period of time, you could say maybe over a 2-week period, a few of them will voice that these are the things that have been happening around me. Is this normal? And it has to do with energy, whether they're feeling a certain way or all of a sudden people are popping up from the past, or it says the waves of energy, they don't exactly recycle themselves, but it says energy is like emotions. It changes forms. So if you felt drained, there's truth to that. It's similar to when people are feeling on a good day or they're getting sick. Other times it has to do with the weather, the environment. Now and then I've heard professionals talk about planetary influences. Because I don't specialize in it, I'm not going to comment. But when there's a trend going on, I also notice friends speaking about it, or even strangers mention it. And then I feel better knowing it's not in my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and I hate to say this, but I don't hate to say it. I'm just going to be honest. I think that gives credence to the whole, you hear things like Mercury's in retrograde, right? I have a lot of friends that, don't do technology. Mercury's in retrograde. And I'm sitting there going, what is Mercury being in retrograde? Number one, I don't even know what that means. But, this planet that it will take us 100 days or so to get to with our fastest route. What does that have to do with technology? I mean, what does that have to, and what it has to do is that we are energy. And I believe that on a small level, Mercury, either absorbs our energy or does whatever. So, as a communal kind of thing, everybody is being, that energy is being absorbed on a global scale from everybody. And thus, technology or what I don't think the actual technology feels the energy drain, but I think people tend to do stupid things during that time on low energy.
I want to laugh at that. Well, with the Mercury retrograde, as you mentioned, on a global level, as a planet, yes, there are energetic shifts going on. That's how I perceive it. But it does play out in the way how people behave, and then there are delays. It doesn't mean that we plan our things to be delayed. For example, communication, business transactions going through. Maybe you're waiting for something in mail to come in and you realize that, why is there a delay for my money? Why is there a delay for me finding out if I got the job or not? Or technology gets screwed up, or now and then miscommunication happens or misunderstanding. Yeah. So that type of haywire energy, it goes a little bit frantic. And some people religiously plan their lives around these Mercury retrogrades, and I'm open-minded about it, but I don't like to turn it into a tenet where I'm planning my life around it.
Yeah. Well, I hear all the time, and I'll joke around myself is Mercury, because I'm in the technology business. So when something frits out, I'll ask myself, is Mercury in retrograde? And then come to find out, to be honest with you, 9 times out of 10, it was IO air, what we call in the industry IO air. And I'm going to give you guys a little bit inside baseball. When tech support says it's an IO air, they're not meaning in and out, input, output air. What they actually mean, because that's the technical term for IO, is input outputs. They mean ignorant operator. I'm just letting you know so when they say, it's an IO, they just called you an ignorant operator. I find that most of the technology issues is caused because of people, making a mistake. Now, like I said, we're human, and we're affected by the energy around us. And I do find myself more sluggish during those times. I do find myself, a little bit distracted And I think that's, that causes the backup. So now you take that on, that's a micro level. Now you take it on a macro level, a larger scale. And instead of just Jeff Norton feeling sluggish, you have, the whole city of Tampa feeling sluggish. So I think naturally things happen. The mail, like you said, the mail slows down, the more mistakes at work, someone's not paying attention, gets in a traffic accident, someone hits the wrong button on the keyboard, and instead of doing a backup, they delete their whole system. So I lend credence to that respect. But do I believe that Mercury itself affects a circuit board? I don't. I'm sorry. I have a hard time with that because those are inanimate objects that are not subject to I guess the whimsicals of the environment. Well, does that make sense? Or did I completely mess that one up?
Likewise. Oh, no, you did not mess it up because it's an open-ended topic. There's no right or wrong answer. And for anyone who feels there's a definitive answer, then I guess you and I should come up with a list of questions for them that we want answers to that people have been spending their entire life trying to find out. I view it as there's a holding pattern. And typically I hear people say, well, during these transitional periods, they don't advise you to make impulsive decisions because it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. So.
Well, that means we can't do anything. I did not know this, but we're moving into the age of Aquarius. Right now, we're coming out of Pisces into Aquarius. Did you?
You're educating me on that.
Oh, really? So that's a huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People ask me if I'm an astrologer, and I say I'm not an astrologer.
Yeah. But, for me, what I'm all right. So what I'm I know you're not. I know you're a spiritual. But what I'm finding is that I'm finding, a lot of these questions as I have more guests on and knowledgeable guests. A lot of these things, a lot of these conversations, or a lot of these pseudoscience is based upon the energy. And as we transgress from one to the other, from one time to another, I am seeing what's causing a lot of these supposed phenomena are shifts in energy. Added and if you go to Walt Thornhill, he was on the show and he talked about the electric universe and how the universe is all electric. And that's how it's so, Mercury in retrograde or whatever it may be. And the way that these planets, we are changing the physical, relationship to the planets, to one another, creates energy fields, takes away energy, negative, positive, or feeds to it. Plus you have this thing called the sun, that's always feeding energy into our ionosphere and into our thing. And I'm finding that a lot of these pseudoscience beliefs that are out there, like with astrology or whatever, if you track them back to energy cycles, you'll see correlations between high energy peak, low energy peaks. So yeah, an astrologist will say, if you're a Libra, you act this way, a certain way. And what you find is that if you correlate what is the sun cycles during the month of October, right, a Libra or whatever, and you see the positioning of the alignment of the sun and the planetary positioning during that time, you'll see that there are definitely shifts of energy. And if you have a low energy or a high energy, that's going to affect, because I know when I'm at a high energy level, I'm hyper. It's like, calm down. When I'm at a low energy level, I'm like, I can't get up and go to work. And so I think we're all that way. And that's what's really cool is I'm learning through this show, and I hope our listeners are learning that, going to your point, the energy levels and everything, I'm finding that a lot of these other esoteric ideas, it all boils down to energy.
I definitely agree with you because I know every year there are authors that come out and publish books regarding different signs of astrology, and it breaks down all of the high peak cycles, the ideal, beneficial time to engage in investing your money or starting a business or starting relationships and all. And I find it not only educational, but there's also a humorous side to it, especially when I hear women talk about it, because they typically associate these signs with their love in relationships or the type of men they're dating or the type of women that they're dating. Mm-hmm. And each of these signs have certain characteristics. And I know when I was much younger, I was just open-minded to it, but not really as informed on it. And over a period of time, as I meet so many people, I do believe that there is credibility to the idea of if you meet somebody who's a Gemini, mm-hmm. they have certain qualities. It doesn't mean that they possess 100% of the description of a Gemini, but there's always a characteristic that's dominant and one that is a little bit passive mm-hmm. in each one of us. And I know some people are really big on knowing their moon sign and their sun sign and knowing how their week will go. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a hard enough time, pronouncing people's names, so I don't worry about moon signs right now. I don't even, I couldn't, I leave that up to the experts. And so for me, I feel the way I feel because I feel that way. I mean, I'm sorry to be that simplistic in my observations. I don't try to figure out why I have, a certain spike or decrease. I just accept it. I just say, okay, this is the way it's going to be today. It's kind of like, this is the way you want to be. Okay. This is the way we're going to be today. And I just kind of go, I adjust my day accordingly, to those cycles and everything. But, talking about your expertise, more of the spirituality side, the spiritualist, how, when you are working, well, let's go back. Did we started to define the different energy levels. So let's start there. Let's talk about those real quick. Let's finish that conversation before we go on to the next.
I know we covered energy vampires and how to ground your energy. And then we were talking about trying to see what happened right before the weather kicked in.
Well, you were getting really hot.
Yes, I do remember that my body temperature was rising a lot. Yeah. And then that is when we had to part.
I would like to say I have that effect on every female, but no, so what was, all right. So for clarity, so I don't get in trouble here, with Miss Sandy, cause she heard that. She was like, what were you doing? It's like,
okay. Well, I could clarify it. We were discussing different types of energy, and I was sharing examples of where I do energy work. And at times I have, fire alarms have gone off, and several times they have gone off. And it's funny because although the weather was on where you were, 2 days afterwards, I just felt on a fire alarm coming, and I walked out for a meeting, and I came back and I saw the fire brigade and everything. And I was laughing because the fire alarm had gone off, but there was no fire.
Ah.
So I have one of those tendencies that I could just feel it. It's that tingling feeling of something's about to happen. And if it doesn't happen immediately, it typically happens within 24 to 72 hours.
Yeah. Now, would you consider yourself an empath?
I believe so.
Okay. So you do pick up on others. So I'm sure the night of the storm, which is really, to be honest with you though, I was going back, the night of the storm. I was actually, how do I say, surprised by the 130. I have, I'm on these headphones, and these are Sennheiser headphones. So these things are like super high quality. I didn't hear anything, didn't know anything was going on outside until I heard that large boom that hit the side of hit the side of the building. And it was a tree branch. So I don't think I was saying, the storm, I was worried, like I was projecting worry or concern about the storm because I couldn't hear it. I didn't know it was intensifying. Now I'll tell you at 1:30, after the show and I went outside, I was like, holy smokes. It was blowing. It was blowing really hard and everything. Gosh, we're already at the end of this segment. It's amazing what happens.
Wow,
Sasha.
time is flying.
Time is flying, and it's weird. Well, it's not weird. It's awesome. Actually, it means we're having a great conversation. So hang in there for a little bit. We'll come back and we're going to talk about the different types of energy. We'll finish up that conversation. I want to make sure we put that one to rest. But we're talking with our dear friend, Sasha. Join us in a few minutes.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
Yes, it is, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean Radio Show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. Join us live every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on the web 24/7 at themidnightocean.com. That's right. It is up there 24/7. Now, if you really want to join me live, get out to Facebook, become a member of Facebook, of our Facebook page, The Midnight Ocean. You can friend request me there. I will respond. We've actually set up this is pretty cool. We set up a new page called social. All you have to do is type in at the Midnight Patient, or at the Facebook page, you type in social look for users. So it's social.themidnightocean@gmail.com. That is the email address. If you put that into Facebook, you can friend me there. That is the actual site that I will accept friend requests from you, the listener. What does that get you? Well, what that gets you is that if I friend request and we keep that page up, you can chat with me. You can message me. You can talk with me. Now, I know a lot of you are like, why don't you just do that with the other page? Well, let me tell you why. Because my friends on the other page at the Midnight Ocean, the main page, those are my real friends. Those are guests, friends, and I have family there. So that's the way I communicate. So we wanted to parse them out because I do want to talk to you guys. And I thought the best way. So we created a new email called social.themidnightocean@gmail.com, and friend request me there. And I'm on there during the day, and I will talk to you. One of our goals with this show is to communicate with our listeners. Trust me. And I just want to welcome John Stucca to the conversation. He's over there in the chat room. I will tell you this too. Part of the show is not only our guest, but you, the listener. And the only chat room that we actually follow during the show is over on YouTube. So get over there on YouTube, follow us there. That one, I do read the messages. I do follow during the breaks, during the show. You'll see me look over. I'm looking at it right now. And so that is the best way to communicate to me via chat. If you don't want to go to YouTube, you can go to our webpage, themidnightocean.com. Scroll down about halfway. On the right-hand side, you'll see under resources, you'll see a chat link there. You can actually, through our website, chat as well. Well, I don't want, because I know time is always so precious and so valuable, so I don't want to keep our guest, Miss Sasha, on hold for too long. So, Sasha, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You know, during the break, I have a battery system here. So we have 6 batteries. These are independent battery backups, APCs, or power units. And they have relays in them. And whenever they feel like a power's going away or whatever, they'll click. They have manual relays, and I hear them clicking. And during the last break, 2 of them were clicking over to run off of battery power. So
wow.
It's already starting. We haven't gotten into an hour into the show, and we're starting to already have, but they flip back. They're now running off AC again. So why, Sasha? Why?
I told you in chat that I'm afraid that something will happen again.
Why is that? See, I don't feel it. Like I said, right before the break, during the hurricane, I can honestly say I didn't feel when you were getting that flow of heat energy as it was coming through. I don't think I was projecting that, because I can tell you, I was oblivious to what was going on outside. Consciously. Now, subconsciously, maybe it was different. Maybe the energy was being sucked out of me and I didn't realize it. Because I am when I do these shows, I am a very high energy person. I get in trouble all the time because during the day, it's kind of like, Jeff shows some energy level here, but the 4 hours that I do the show, I am at the peak of my energy level. And so maybe it was getting sucked out of me and I just didn't realize it because I'm such a high energy person when I do the shows.
But that's a great thing because I'm sure that once you go off air, you still have that radio high.
Oh, yeah.
Because I know I get it, and then I cannot take a nap or do anything. I'm just like wired like a kid on candy.
Yeah, I don't go to bed. I can't. I've tried it, and I've tried the NyQuil trick, which is not something that you should do. But I've tried to take NyQuil to go to bed right after the show at 2 a.m. And it doesn't matter what I do. I can't fall asleep until after 4. So I don't even try anymore. That's when I stay up and I watch my sci-fi channels or I watch my alien, the alien abductions or catch up because I don't watch here in the Norton household. It's funny. I don't watch. My routine is that I'm done. I get out of the pool at about 5:00. I eat while I'm eating dinner with Sandy. We usually watch King of Queens because that's we love watching that show. And, that King of Queens, Big Bang Theory, are two shows that we watch together, and then I take a short nap, do the show. And then at night after the show, I watch either Ancient Aliens or I'll catch up on news or something like that until about 4 a.m. Go back to sleep, wake back up and I don't use alarm clocks. We don't actually have alarms set. I wake up at 10 o'clock. I do my day job, doing the business of radio, which a lot of people don't realize. There's a lot of work that goes into it off hours. And then at 4 o'clock, I stop and I jump in the pool and do my exercise for an hour. And that's my day.
That's your routine.
That's my routine.
The shows that you mentioned are both high energy shows.
Yeah.
We all need to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, we actually have a question from one of the guests. John asks, Sasha, I'd like to know what types of energy work you yourself has studied, whether internal or external. Okay.
Would he be kind to clarify internal or external? Because a lot of I don't like to use training, but a lot of the knowledge that I've acquired was through growing up around people who were spiritualists themselves, and then me learning through my own life experiences of how to connect to my own intuition, listening to gut feelings, being able to see spirits, hear spirits. And at one point, I will say that even though I was mindful of the gift, I kept on, I shouldn't say resisting it, but my practical career was priority. And I realized that I kept on going from one job opportunity to another. I kept on jumping ship as the grass is greener on the other side, not to sound thankless, but I realized that I was running away from a part of me. And until I acknowledged my gift on a global level and started applying it to help others, that's when my own energy started stabilizing.
Gotcha.
It doesn't quite answer his question directly, but I would like to know what he meant by internal and external.
Yeah, so he did respond. It says internal such as yoga or meditation.
Yes, I started doing yoga probably 6 years ago, but I was working in the field of energy before that. There are many different types of yoga that works. I tried the hot yoga. It's not meant for me. The yoga that worked for me was Surya Namaskar. So Surya. The second word is Namaskar. Actually, that type of yoga comprises of 12 different asanas, movements. And it's a sun salutation, and those back in India follow it, and it also has some religious significance. I don't follow their religion or come from that specific subculture, but I started it because I was in between job opportunities back then, and I was off insurance, and I needed to find something that would sustain me and improve my health. And that was what I stuck with for 3-4 months. And I noticed a lot of changes with body flexibility, heightened senses. I also felt that I was more grounded in energy. And it's a type of yoga where there are 12 movements, but they incorporate every part of your body. So if you don't want to go to the gym, or you're not someone who likes to jog or run or be in the pool, if you adhere to these sets of the 12 asanas, and you do it even for 30 minutes, or do it 2-3 times a week, you will start seeing the internal changes with your body. Your body runs smoother. Your skin looks better. Your senses are more heightened. But then again, as I tell everybody out there, when you take on a new habit or embrace a new behavior, and it's a good thing, consistency is really important in order to know whether it works for you or not.
Yeah. I mean, well, like with me now, Zura, I gotta ask this question because I don't see me. Look, unless there's a pool involved, I am not doing it. I have exercised. I've lifted weights. It's obvious. I'm a big dude, and I will tell you, the pool is by far for me the best therapeutic ever. And do you know of a yoga that incorporates pool? Because that would be awesome.
I was going to say, I wouldn't be surprised if they also do yoga classes in the pool, because they already have water aerobics, and water itself is a form of life. Yes. It's therapeutic, and also water could serve as resistance. Yeah. So it comes in many different forms. There's no right or wrong way of going about grounding one's energy. And then, for example, the other example would be meditation. I'm not someone who could sit still for 30 minutes and meditate, but if I had to, I could do it for 10, 15 minutes. I would say, for me, meditation would be just saying a prayer of mindfulness and reminding myself what I'm grateful for and what I have to do in order to go about my day. In any moment in time, of course, you don't know what you're going to be hit with throughout the day, whether it's a moment of anxiety or just uncertainty. You could always resort to some meditation to ground you. And it's not something you have to excuse yourself from a crowd. It's more of a mental thing. Do you know how to control your mind?
Yeah. I think I meditate whenever Sandy's yelling at me for something. Because I didn't do something. I just kind of go in that. Because she's like, did you hear me? It's like, no, I didn't hear nothing. For me, it's kind of like, that's when I meditate the most, is when I'm trying to do out. But yeah, I'm like you. I can't functionally set aside 30 minutes and say, I'm going to sit and meditate. It has to be a waking, like what you just described, a waking meditation where I'm in the world and I just kind of put it on pause for a few minutes and, do the serenity prayer or something. That's my form of meditation, is the serenity prayer. And
right. At the end of the day, I think the whole point of it is to make us mindful, slow us down. And speaking of meditation, I was going to comment on the music for your show. I love it. It's so calm. It paces people, and it reminds me of something that I would consider meditating to.
Yeah, there's some songs I'm sitting there going, Little Planet, I'm going to play it by Ben Sound. And you can actually, if you go to YouTube, if you are a producer, you can actually go to YouTube and download all these songs for free. They allow you to do that because they're for the show. I mean, they're copyright free. So you can actually download them. I tell people that's a huge resource. They have over 300-400 songs in different genres of music that you can just do it. And
I never knew that.
Yeah. So if you are a YouTube, you have to be a YouTube. You have to produce videos. So if you have a YouTube, the studio license or whatever they call it, you can actually go and it's under channels or something, or create. It's under create. and you can download all of the songs. All of our songs that we play are free, open source. And what's really cool, I don't know if you know this, but the lead song, the intro song, actually was made for us by Kevin MacLeod, which Kevin is I would have to say the most listened to musician in the history of the world, because he's the guy that does almost all of the music on YouTube and a lot of the video games and a lot of the, how do you say, promo music or background music that you hear. Very well-known composer in New York City. And he actually produced and wrote our opening theme song. And then our ending song is actually written by a good friend, Ed Roman. And, I Am Love is the name of that song. But, yeah, either one of those are, yeah. I love our music. It's our commercial music. It's
wonderful.
What we feed. Now going back and, so internal such as external such as Reiki, REIKI, or other types of energy healing as the external. Do you participate in any of those?
I've had experiences with Reiki. I haven't done any formal Reiki sessions in a long time on any clients, but there are many different levels of Reiki. I think it's in respective to the practitioner, how many different levels they break up Reiki to, and that's how you study it. But I've been introduced to introductory and intermediate Reiki. And I do believe that there are some people who do this full time, or you could say 24/7, and they do have the ability to help you with grounding your energy and relaxing you. The first time I was introduced to Reiki was at a corporate event when I worked for a CEO. This was over 9 years ago. And to relax the employees, because she was into new age stuff, she brought in a Reiki practitioner. And that's when I was initially introduced to Reiki. And I could literally feel the energy. I don't know what would be the right word to describe it, but rising, the heat or the movement, the energetic shifts that the woman was working with her two hands on, at least on my back. And you pick different body parts. And there are Reiki practitioners who are exceptional, who also do distance healing. And somehow they do it on Skype, or it could be on the phone. And I've had it also on Skype, where the person is chatting to me and they're telling me, okay, tell me what you feel now. And I would literally feel as they were standing behind me and working with their hands.
Whoa. So you actually, now, okay, so let's two questions.
Sure.
All right. So we have audience members who are new to this. So right. Reiki is a form of energy healing, right? It's basically akin to laying on hands. Correct. It's
the laying of hands and also grounding energy, shifting energy, so the flow is proper in your body. I wouldn't be the ideal person to describe it, because I think sometimes when you are part of the experience, you don't view it objectively, and you kind of assume that other people know about it. But when I think of Reiki, it also reminds me of acupuncture.
Okay.
Acupuncture is more invasive form of treatment, and many people use it for medical reasons, or I use it for an energy high, where you insert these really thin hair-like needles. They're so thin you don't feel it, and they put them on those sensitive points depending where you want it done. I've had it done on my hands and on my neck and my back, and you hold the position for, it could be 15 to 20 minutes. And while the treatment is undergoing, you just feel that energy is being released and redirected throughout your body. Yeah. So it flows properly. And I will say that from my past experiences, when they take out the needles, I feel as I'm on a high, where my vision is sharper, my senses are more keen.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually it was funny. I had a real good friend who was a computer guy. His family, actually, in Chinatown, he was Chinese, but their family in Chinatown, Chicago, were the apothecaries, or the akin to the pharmacy. And so Long, great guy. So he had the background in that business, but he went into computers. And when the computers started to get slow, the business started to get slow, he went back to school and became a doctor in acupuncture, in alternative medicine. And I remember him going to school. So he would practice on us because we would, we're still writing software together and we'd feel tense. And he would come up and he's like, "Oh, I'm learning a new thing." He goes, "Do you mind if I would do it?" And one of the greatest books one of the top ones in my book collection is a book that he gave me called The Web Has No Weaver. And it talks about alternative medicines and stuff. But he would do the acupuncture on me. And I will tell you, and like I said, some of it might be psychological or whatever, because at first I was apprehensive. You ain't sticking no needle in me, man. But I will tell you, because we sit as computer programmers and we sit for long periods of time. And so I had this issue of ankle swelling. My legs would swell up because I'm not standing up, not walking around enough. So he would do the acupuncture. And I will tell you that he got rid of I had doctors that were like, "Oh, we're going to put you on, water pills or whatever." And Long did the acupuncture on me, and, all of that edema, it's called edema, I guess is the medical term, it went away. I swear by it, it works. It works without a doubt. And I wouldn't be telling people that if I didn't believe in it. Yeah, and it makes sense to me, because what you're doing is you're short circuiting the electrical system, your body's electrical system, and you're diverting it or you're moving it and everything. So I'm a firm believer in that. I'm just going here in the chat room to make sure that I answer all of the questions that are there. Going back to, and I want to make sure that people understand that you're a spiritualist. So because we have a lot of new listeners that probably didn't hear the first show and your explanation, can you just briefly state once again, what a spiritualist is?
Yes, I recall your initial question had to do with, I walk around saying I'm spiritualist but not religious, or how does it work? And I mentioned that when it comes to, I incorporated also the idea of faith, that religion is between man and man, where it's more of an organization or dogma that people adhere to certain tenets. And it's a matter of how often do you pray? Do you go to church? Do you do charity? Do you follow the 10 Commandments? It's more, I don't want to say it's measurable, but it's more visible in assessing whether a person is religious or not, because we live in a really judgmental society, unfortunately. Yeah. But spirituality, it's more fluid, that there's no fixed guideline of you have to do this or what you have to do that. Attention doesn't go to what you're not doing. Attention goes to what you are doing. So it's more fluid in the sense of how you engage in positivity in your life, how you connect well on your energetically, how you take care of yourself. What is that relationship that you have with yourself? And even religious people have a strong relationship with themselves, those that are of faith. And faith has to do with our connection with our Creator. And that could be God, it could be energy, it could be source, because there are so many different types of, you could say, belief systems out there. I just happen to be one that believes in God. So my Creator would be God that I could relate to. And with spirituality, there are many different ways of going about learning about yourself and connecting. With religion, it seems it's more black and white as people make it appear. It doesn't mean it is black and white. But with spirituality, you could say there's gray areas, but at the same time, there isn't too much black and white.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, talk about love. The greatest commandment that was ever given to us was love thyself, and then love thy neighbor as thyself. And there isn't a greater commandment than that. I mean, that is it. That if you want to boil on how we should live our lives and how we should contribute in our communities, that is the answer right there is love thyself and then love thy neighbor as thy love thyself. So with that, we're actually ending this segment. When we get back, I have a few more questions that we're going to ask our dear guest, Sasha. And, Sasha, I know that this is a second go around for you, so feel free if you have other commitments or whatever, let me know in the chat during the break.
I'm enjoying this as long as you're not tired of me.
Oh, no. I am never tired of you and any of our guests, but we'll take a quick break, come back. I have some more questions and we'll continue our conversation with Sasha. For those that don't know, she's on BBC. Yep. Moving Mountains with Sasha on BBC.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. The Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
welcome back. Welcome back to those that are rejoining us, and welcome to those that are joining us. I do see some new additions, new listeners. I just want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for the great questions in the chat room. And if you guys have the opportunity, I don't want to say don't have the opportunity, but if you have the opportunity, get over to the chat room in YouTube, follow along, because half the show is the listeners. Now, I do promise that we will be bringing on a way here in the next couple days to have listeners interact live on the show as well. We are working on it. We had to make a decision to switch the hybrid system, the phone system, over to a all Skype based system. And we did that. And with that, I do apologize that we had to move the phone calls off, but we will be bringing back the Skype based listener lines will be coming back here in the next few days. But before we get back to our guest, Sasha's on the line. I do want to do a little housekeeping here. If you are joining us for the first time, it is ever so important that you hit that subscribe button. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook. The best way to do that is type in The Midnight Ocean. That is our main page. Hit the like button there. That way you will be posted. We don't spam. The only thing that we will ever post to you is things that are relative to or related to our shows that we do here. It's our way of communicating with you. The other thing too that you guys can do is if every listener of the YouTube show, everyone that downloads this podcast, if you would just tell 5 friends about us, that's it, just 5. We could double our listenership almost overnight. That's how we grow. Now, I know there's a lot of schemes and scams and different things that you can do to grow your listenership. I don't want to do that. I want it to be organic. I want you to desire or to want to listen to this show. It's not a one-hit kind of thing. Now, I know we can juice our numbers that way. I know the tricks. I know how that works. But we want organic growth. And the way that we get organic growth is by you telling your friends, your family about us and about our shows. Now, also, we have a huge archive of shows, great shows. Some, the quality of the audio are better than others, and I do apologize. We've kind of fixed those issues here in the past 2 weeks. We've gotten a lot better at our craft, I would say. And so you can link to those. You can share those with your friends and family. I will tell you that in the next month, we will be bringing some of our older guests back onto the show because I think it's only fair that we give them the best audio performance that we can. So we will be asking some of our older guests to come back. I will tell you that we are in talks with Dr. Ram. He's going to come back on the show. We have some other very well-known guests that were on very early in the show. They're agreeing to. We're just trying to work out the schedule. But right now we're talking with our dear and good friend, Sasha. Sasha, are you still doing you're still doing the BBC shows, right?
Yeah, on BBS radio, I do Sasha Talks, and Moving Mountains with Sasha is also a show and also a podcast.
Sure.
So when I started the Moving Mountains with Sasha for this year, I anticipated that I would do maybe one every week, but the way it panned out with the audience, with the guests in my schedule, it worked out that I did as many as I could take advantage of these great guests out there because they travel and they have their own careers. So I knocked out, I think, about 25 to 30 segments, and then I'm on a really short mini hiatus, and then I will restart probably in a month or so.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I was just say, because how'd you get that gig? Tell me.
For the BBS radio?
Yeah.
That was, it came, well, that's a good question. I never thought about it. I think it came into my life back in 2012. I was working off the high of Blog Talk Radio at that time. And I said, let me see what radio stations are there. And at that time, BBS Radio was going strong, but they were also looking for new talent who wanted to invest in the station. And I said, I will give it a go. If it goes well, it will force me to continue growing, because I don't hide from the audience that I don't come from radio. Yeah. If people have not already picked up on it. But I wanted to learn something new that I haven't done. And if it worked out, I would continue doing it. And if it wasn't my cup of tea, I would have walked away. But the guys at BBS Radio, Doug and Don, have been sweethearts, and I love contributing to their station. And at the same time, it has forced me to study new topics and report back. Awesome. Yeah, no, I saw that and I was like, yeah, because they've gotten to the point now where they're pretty well. They're open for new talent, and I was looking at them, but they're also kind of filled up. So you got in on the ground floor. Right. I was going to say that the station is now saturated with a lot of hosts, but it's always a good form of energy that keeps rotating, because some hosts come and go. For example, I usually have a habit that every year I come up with my segments, but they usually start airing from spring to Christmas, because of all of the things that I juggle. If I could do a entire 12 months there, I would, but I also balance it off with my other podcast and other work that I do. So that is how BBS Radio came into my life. And because they've been so great to me, I have continued making sure that I fit that into my working schedule. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it is. I mean, a lot of people just don't understand. You know, they think that you walk in, you turn on the microphone and you start talking. And they don't realize the work effort that goes, especially like a show such as ours, where we do this nightly. The workload that we carry just to do this, and hats off to you. Exactly. I highly commend you for all of the work that you do, because you do it every night. Yeah. And I know how much work goes on the back end of logistics and getting guests. Yes. Initially, in the first 2-3 years, I would seek out the guests by invitation only. Yeah. And for the first time for Moving Mountains with Sasha, I said, let me put out an invitation, an open invite, and people could pitch their bios and their work to me. And I was left speechless, because I received pitches in the triple digits in the first 72 hours. Yeah. And I was telling another host that I've only gotten through about 10-15% of it. And that's why I have a note on my website that thank you for submitting your information, and I will get back to you. But if you don't hear from me, I want you to continue going to all of these radio shows. Yeah. It's phenomenal. I mean, during the day, I'll filter through, 100 emails. And then the guests and everything. And talking about emails, John, one of the chat room wanted to know the best way. The best way to reach us is production. It's production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. That is the best way to communicate. And of course, you can communicate with me on Facebook through IM and all of those things. So to answer his question, John's the one that's been asking a lot of these great questions. And talking about, I shelved it. I'm learning the craft of broadcasting. I'm learning to write things down, which is something that I never really did. Really? Well, yeah, which is, when you do these shows and you have the guests that we have, the quality of guests, we've had some big hitters in the broadcast industry, and all three of them, I will tell you, guys who are very well known, who have their own shows as well, all said the same thing. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and start writing things down, Jeff, during the show. Your mind, you can't keep up with everything that goes on, and make sure that you close it. So this is one of the ones that I did write down.
in the last break, you were talking with the Reiki healer, and I want to investigate this a little bit more.
Yes.
Have more discussion. You actually felt them in the room touching you?
Right. I felt their energetic influence because the person, it was a female practitioner, she walked me through. She was asking me, what are you feeling at the moment? I would say that I'm feeling my shoulders, heat on my shoulders. I'm feeling the energy working itself towards the center of my neck. And she would validate what she was doing, and we were communicating back and forth, because any type of healing activity or method, a healthy healing activity would be where there's two-way communication. Because sometimes I cross paths with clients and they're asking you questions, and sometimes they feel that just because they're talking to you, they're giving away information. And I have to make them understand that in order for us to make progress, I'm not asking you, tell me everything about you. That's my job, to tell the person information that they're seeking. But you still have to have, it's like a radio. Two towers have to communicate with one another. Just like that, energy communicates, whether it's between two things or two people. And with Reiki, that was an example that I thought of immediately, because I always wondered what distance healing would be. Now, distance healing could be, you could put in a request and write to a healing group or a healing practitioner, and they could do it via email. And it's been, I think, 3 years since I've been part of a healing circle, but I did it anonymously, where every week there was a caseworker who would distribute a specific case to each practitioner. I happened to be one of those practitioners where I would get a case, and it would be whether it was a mother asking this quote unquote unknown practitioner to pray for their child, or this person's going for surgery and this is the last hope for a cancer patient, or my marriage is breaking down, please pray that we make some progress, or if a woman loses her child through a miscarriage. There are so many different life dynamics where we need a little bit of healing. And I would work on these cases every week, and then I would write back to the person who requested it a very general email letting them know that they are in my prayers. I burn a candle, or I did some meditation, or just sending them positive healing to help their situation. And I took it seriously, because I think one of the most satisfying things is when you least expect it. Some case that you worked on maybe a few weeks ago or a few months ago, they follow up with you. And they let you know that my grandmother had her brain surgery and she made it through and she's doing wonderful. She could walk again. And there was one of that similar nature that I recall, and I haven't forgotten about it, because when you talk about healing and human conditions, sometimes we take our own lives for granted, that we don't realize that maybe we could be having a bad day. A bad day could go from bad to worse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I think it's very important, especially with that we have, or we think about, and I'm learning this because we get so caught up in ourselves. We get so caught up in with us having to pay bills, or our kids going to college or whatever, that, and I'll tell you this from personal experience, when you get outside of yourself and you think of others, and especially people that you don't even know, and you're part of that process, you gain benefit from that as well. You definitely get benefit from that. So if you're a selfish person and you're only about yourself, and maybe your life's not going well, karma does come back. And one way, if you want to change your life and the things that are happening, think of someone else. Maybe reach out and join one of these. I think it is important that you mention that. It's funny that you say that, Sasha, and I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag just yet, but it is so bizarre that you just made that statement, because we're going to be doing something here on this show that is on the lines of what you were just talking about. And we were going to announce it after we got off the air. When I had some free time, I was going to announce some of the things that we're going to be doing especially for thinking of others. It's amazing how God, or whatever you want to call, the deity, the one that looks above us, whatever name you want to give him, how he kind of leads us to these conversations. It's amazing. I'm all giddy when you talked about these healing circles, because that's in line with a new thing that we're going to be doing here soon enough. We're just getting everything ready to go and getting it set up correctly so that we do that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to confess that even though I'm out there helping other people, I'm human and I have my spiritual tantrums behind closed doors. But as we mentioned, that we have to step outside of our own lives in order to acquire perspective that I'm not the only one walking through on the earth. There are many people out there. Yes. And that's why I always push for the idea of paying it forward. And I really believe in karma, because I'm also an author, but I haven't distributed my latest writings out there. They're in the process of being launched, but there's a karma series that I've been working on, how it relates to our financial karma, our love karma, our career karma. And karma knows where we live.
Yeah, you can't get away from karma. You really can't, and I know a lot of people see that my explanation of karma is I think we carry our own energy. And so what happens when you throw negative energy out there, I don't think that there's this thing of, how do I say this? For me, the way that I process the concept of karma is I don't think that there's that we throw this negative energy out there in the ethos. And so like a little, lightning bolt, eventually it comes like a boomerang, it comes back and hits us, right? I think what happens is that when you throw negative energy, you actually store that inside yourself. And what happens is that negative energy, like all energy, is going to try to release itself. It's kind of like the path of least resistance. It wants to dispel itself outside of you. And I think what happens is that you can bottle it up and you can hold it back all you want to, but darn well you did something wrong. And that is inside you and it's got to get out. And the only way that it can get out or dissipate is A, let it out through some event, or B, you can offset it by a positive energy, and enough positive energy will eventually neutralize the negative energy. But that's my internal concept of karma. Yeah, I don't think it's a boomerang that you throw out there and then it comes back, at some time, a month or 2 months down the road and hits you. I think it's just bad energy that you carry along with yourself until you and it's going to find, the body, all physics tells us your body wants to adjust. Energies want to negate each other. They want to balance. Everything wants to balance. That's why we have storms. A lot of people don't realize the reason why you have storms is that's Mother Earth trying to balance its energy. So why would humans be any different? Why would any other creature on Mother Earth be any different than that? We have to balance. So that's my concept of karma, for what it's worth.
It sounds profound. It kind of appears that karma has to climax, for better or worse. And if it's worse, then it will find a way to detox itself out of your path.
Oh, it will. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. I've thrown some bad things out there in my time. And, like I said, you have to offset them with good. Or I think it's kind of like a bomb. That energy's there. And it's going to build and build and build. And if you don't offset it, what comes back is definitely going to come back a lot stronger than what you put out there to begin with. I mean, that's how I negate it. So when I do something wrong, number one, the way that I negate it is I admit it to the person that I wronged or to whatever I did. I just say, I'm sorry. I made, so boom, it's gone. Or number two, I make sure that I'm doing a lot of good to offset it. And, sometimes you don't want to admit to people that you did things wrong. So you can still offset that. But I think the best way to offset it and the easiest way is just make it right. Just make it right. Just go to the person or the thing or whatever and say, hey, look, I was a real schmuck, during that time. And I do apologize and please accept it. And,
well, that is a mature approach. I wish more people were mature about it, because often I meet people who want great things for themselves, but they feel that they have to take away the goodness from other people. Yeah. Like we're running out of abundance and people are just running and taking whatever they can. And I always remind them that if you want goodness for yourself, you also have to wish, it's a little bit like the commandment, your neighbor well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I had Gerard on Gerard Artisan on the show. He actually filled in. Here you go. We recorded a show. He's from the Netherlands. So we recorded a show, and what happened was I was already booked up, but he wanted to be on the show. So we recorded it. I said, look, we'll do the show when we can, as a filler kind of thing when like something bad happens or whatever. So we were kicking around the idea. This is a funny story. When we were kicking around the idea, when he called me up, he said, look, I recorded the show with you. When are you going to do it? And I said, I don't know. I have no idea. And then that night we had the thunderstorm hit Monday. So God answered that question, right? So we filled in the show with Gerard, and he made a profound but so simple solution to what's going on in the world. He said, we could change what is happening in this world overnight. And the way that we do that is do it this way. First, love yourself, and then love your neighbor as yourself. He said, and that would change. That would end all wars. That would end all famine. That would end all pestilence. Now, granted, you have, like you said, you have opportunists out there, people that are going to take advantage of the situation. Well, I will tell you that if we change the communal norm of, I got to get all I can get when I can get it, to, hey, we're all in this together. Eventually, the I got to get it people are going to be a minority, and either A, they're going to come on board with the rest of us, or B, they're going to be ejected. I mean, let's just face it. And I'm sorry, I would rather live in a world in which we all treat each other like we want to be treated. And then, then some pigs, as the animal farm would say, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. But I think what we need to do, that is the answer to what's going on in this country, all over the world. We got to get rid of that mindset. We need to first love ourselves, understand what that means to love ourselves and to respect ourselves. And then once we grasp that, we need to then turn to the next person and start treating them in the same regard. And like I said, either they're going to get it, they're going to fall in one or two baskets. They're going to fall in the basket of, hey, this is a great way of living and I want to participate. Or they're going to be, I'm out for it for myself. And that's going to come clear. And then those people that clearly say, I'm out for it for myself, they just live on an island by themselves. And I'm saying a spiritual island, not a physical.
Okay, because I was going to say, too bad we don't have enough islands to send away people.
A spiritual island. And I think people, right. To be honest with you, think about the shallowest person you know. They are already living on that spiritual island, or the spiritless island. They're already living there. I mean, that's why they're shallow, and that's why they're negative all the time. So, I don't mean to get deep. I mean, you're the guest and stuff. But this is what I love about this show. But this is what I love about talking with you, Sasha, is that it's such we cover so much. We connect. I think we just connect on that level where we can have just great conversation, and it's free. It's free and it's open. And I thoroughly talk about free and open, man. The chat room we're getting a lot of questions. Sure. In the chat room here. Are you familiar, Sasha, are you familiar with esoteric healing as well? I don't use the word esoteric often in my own work. So if the person would like to expand on it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, so let's do this. We're going to take a break, and in the chat room, if you want to explain what you mean a little bit further about esoteric, so that way Sasha can answer the question correctly after the break. We'll,
because with healing, there's so much. It's such a broad topic that everybody has their own definition and perception.
Yep. So, Sasha, we'll take a quick break here. We already blew through another segment. See, it's going quick. It's going quick. So, we're talking with our very special guest, Sasha. And you know, in the chat room, please clarify a little bit more what you mean about esoteric healing. And hopefully Sasha can answer that question. But we'll be back in a few minutes. We're going to take a quick break here, 4-minute break, and we'll be back.
This is the Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right, Andrew. This is the Midnight Ocean radio show and podcast. I am your host, Jeff Norton. You can join me live here every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on the web at www.themidnightocean.com. All right, so I guess there's no better time than the present. Let me give you guys out a few email addresses that we have set up for the show. And these go directly to me. They go right here into the studio. Only I have access to them. So the first one is a production. So if you have any show idea, if you want to be a guest on the show, all you have to do is send an email to production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. That is production.themidnightocean@gmail.com. That's open to everybody. So it doesn't matter. We will, if you spam us, of course, we'll know and we'll deal with you effectively. That's email number one. Now, as we alluded, this is really the synchronicity. We talk about synchronicity, and I'm going to bring our guest back because she can hear this as well as Sasha. Now, I guess this is no better time to announce this one. We have created a new email address, and it's called healing.themidnightocean@gmail.com. healing.themidnightocean@gmail.com. If you have a story, if you have something that is going on in your life, you can send us an email, tell us the story, and then also make sure you include what we can share on the air and what we can't. And basically anything that we can share, you just say share. You can share this, denote it. And when you're done, your story and you're done with what you want to share, say end share. So that way we know between share and end share, we will share your story if it's appropriate on the air, so that all of our listeners then can give you positive. We won't share your personal information. We'll just share your story, but you can be in their thoughts and in their prayers, and we can throw you some good mojo, as they would say. So it is so strange. So, no, it's not. I've been doing this long enough to know that everything happens for a reason, but you brought that up in the last segment, and that is something that we've been putting together, for the last couple of days, and we were going to announce that. So it's a way that we can acknowledge those who are going through trouble and tribulations in their life, and let them know that they're not alone, that there are people.
Talk about perfect timing.
It was. It's a great segue. It was awesome. So look, I'm just the captain of this ship. The navigator is the, God. He's the one that actually drives. Well, I tell people that the guest is actually the navigator of this ship at night, but, God is actually, God would be the ocean then, I guess, because no matter what we do, he's going to lead us, or he's going to lead us home, or he's not. So, but yeah, it's a great, I just, when you said that, that's why my reaction was incredible. And while you were saying that, I shot out an email. I'm like, is that email set up yet that we were talking about? That's what I was doing. I was chatting with one of my people that helped me, one of a few people that helped me. And I'm like, did you guys set that email up? And it's like, yeah. It's like, okay, let's go ahead and announce it. So yeah, so it's healing.themidnightocean@gmail.com. And please just make sure you denote what we can and cannot share, because you're going to find that we're not so unique. Everybody goes through, no matter who you are, goes through the same trials and tribulations. Be it relationships, be it money, be it kids, be it whatever. And so you have an ear here, and we will make sure that we get people. We'll use the power of the broadcast to affect change. So how cool is that? I'm proud of that one. That's probably one of our finest moments here at the Midnight Ocean, the fact that we're doing that. So,
well, I am proud of you. I remember on Sasha Talks, I used to have a prayer request page. And when I initially created it, I never thought too much of it because I was already part of a healing circle. So I said, who's going to go and leave a message? But you'd be surprised. Sometimes there are a lot of moving stories that come your way. Mm-hmm. Somebody needs to be heard, and you're providing that outlet for them. So I commend you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. More importantly, I think that people need to realize that we're not. So we think and we internalize so much that that we're the only ones. Why me? And I think it's important that, especially with my background, my life, I don't shy away from it. I consider it a ministry because I am a testament to the fact that, there's things that I did when I was younger that was completely stupid.
Really?
Incredibly
like what?
stupid.
Were you a wild child?
I was drugs, alcohol. I did my stint in rehab and halfway houses and 12-step programs. Absolutely.
So what was that point where you realized I want to break away from that lifestyle and become healthier? When I woke up drinking a fifth of Jack Daniels in the shower, puking my guts out. I don't want to be graphic, but I think people need to hear this. Puking my guts out in the shower because I'm still hungover, but I'm still drinking a bottle of Jack Daniels in the shower. That's when you realize you got a problem. Were you married at that point?
No.
Or did Sandy come after?
No. I was single. Well, Sandy and I said she was smart enough to get away from me. Yeah, she was smart enough to get away. We were together through high school and then after high school. And then in 89. Yeah, she was, I was an a-hole without a doubt. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And so she was smart enough to get away from me.
So without getting too personal, did you reach the point where you understood why you were self-medicating?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What was really weird? Well, not there. I mean, I went through the rehab. I went through the treatment. The first thing is you got to get clean. And I had issues on top of that. And it wasn't until, how do I say this? I was a 12-stepper, so I went to the meetings. I did all of that. It wasn't until, for me, it was the drugs, mainly the drugs. I was doing some pretty nasty drugs. And, the alcohol was a way, believe it or not, to come off of the not the overdosing, but the withdrawals, because alcohol was plenty. It was all over the place. You can get anywhere, where some of the drugs at the time that I was doing wasn't available like they are now. I mean, it's crazy. I think if in today's day and age, if I was doing what I was doing when I was younger, I'd be dead, because now it's readily available. Most of the drugs, you can go to any major city and find it within 5 minutes. Back then I was living in Nashville, and I can tell you that even though I knew where the drugs were, they were still, the drugs that we were doing were still not hard to find, but they were difficult. It's not like they were readily available, and they were expensive. Let's face it, they were expensive. So like I said, I drank to offset the withdrawal symptoms of the drugs. So, went through rehab, detox, got all that stuff out of my system, but it took a good 5 to 8 years to finally get it. And let me tell you, I was in a 12-step program, and I'm sitting there, and I remember it clear as day. I was sitting there in the program, and this guy was complaining about the IRS. he owed money to the IRS, and he was just blah, 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 blah. And I don't know. I think it was divine in nature, to be honest with you, because I I was very supportive of the thing that kept me sober, kept me clean. And this voice came in and said, what the heck does this have to do with you drinking or doing drugs today? The guy was like, he was complaining. He was like, oh, the IRS. And this voice came into me and said, ask him, what does this have to do with doing drugs or drinking today? What does this story have to do with you choosing to do drugs or drinking? Because that's life. And so I asked him, and I offended him. And my sponsor was like, you can't be that way, with these people. He's like, Jeff, you've been in the program for, 8 years or what? Can't be doing that. And that's exactly what happened. I asked the guy, I said, what does that have to do with you doing drugs or drinking today? Those are problems that everybody has. I want to know what you did to keep yourself from doing drugs or drinking today. In that regard, that's what I'm interested in. I don't care about what you owe, what your child support payments are, and I was it was weird how it came out of me. And then after I sat down and, got all the ire of the younger people were like, here's a guy that's got his 8-year chip or whatever, basically jamming it down this guy's, throat in a sense. So they were kind of like, whoa. But the older guys were like, whoa, you can't be saying that. But then I sat down and the voice said, that question wasn't for him. It was for you. And I had the epiphany at that point. I realized it was all about my actions. It wasn't about the rest of the world. It wasn't about, it was bizarre. It was the weirdest thing. It wasn't about going to meetings. It wasn't about all of the stuff that I thought it was about. It was all about, Jeff, what are you doing today to keep you from doing drugs and alcohol? And it clicked. It really clicked. And then I got on with the rest of my life. From that point forward, I got on with now I will be honest with it. I've been clean, drug free, since I've gotten out of rehab. I've been absolutely 100%. I drink, I'll have a beer, but now, what's really weird? It's almost like if I drink a beer now today, Sandy yells at me because she said I'm wasteful. Because I don't ever drink a full beer. I might drink like a 2 or 3. I might sit in the pool or something and have one beer when I'm barbecuing or something. It's nothing like, it's like that whole urge to get drunk and to live that. It's gone away.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I do have a question about addiction. Yeah. I've heard that typically when you're addicted to one substance, it typically comes in pairs. So if you did drugs, alcohol somehow either complemented or supplemented it.
Food.
So what was food? What were the things that came in pairs? Food.
Well, the drugs and alcohol were definitely the pair that went hand in hand with each other. One was to offset the other. For me, it's food. I don't know what the other pair is. For me, it's food. Absolutely.
It just amazes me. Oh, sorry, go on. I was going to say it just amazes me how many great men out there that I've crossed paths with that had a past with alcohol or they're trying to overcome their relationship with alcohol, because I've learned that not a lot of people know how to handle substances properly in their life.
Well, I mean, think about it. You're taking a drug, all right, that's addictive. Let's break this down. So alcohol is addictive by nature. When you drink alcohol, unless you're drinking a food drink, which I do like my mojitos. I do like mojitos. But when you're drinking alcoholic beverage, it actually is an acquired thing. When you first drink alcohol, your body response is, this is horrible. It's an acquired taste. And if you go back to the very first time that you did it, you were like, oh, But yet you did it because your buddies were doing it, right? That was a cool thing to do. But what happens is that alcohol over a period of time does become addictive. It does feed that. So here you are, you're putting an addictive drug into your system. And over a period of time, you build up tolerance. I mean, just the physiology of it all. You build up tolerances to it. And everybody has issues. That's the thing that I want to get across. Everybody has it. It doesn't matter if you're the richest man in the world, you're worried about something. You know, you're worried about the skeletons in your closet. You're worried about the payrolls that you have to meet. You're worried. There's something. I don't care who you are. You're worried about, it might be good worries. It might be bad worries. And when I say bad worries, you might be worrying about how to take over the world, but everybody has issues. And so you're you're giving yourself a drug to do that. And over a period of time, you abuse it. There's some people that I guess find other ways or other activities. Some run, some exercise, some do whatever. I took the lazy way out, and it's so much easier to do drugs and alcohol because I don't have to do any exercise. So that's what I chose to do. And, but yeah, there's so many successful people. I went to rehab. So I was in rehab with a few. People that, from judges to country music stars to me, to just, a kid that grew up in middle class America. So you'll find some people crave power. One of the things, a lot of people don't know this, like Donald Trump, his brother was an alcoholic.
Yes. I learned that in one of the interviews a few months ago.
And died. Donald, he gets his cravings or his thing from power, from standing over people. That's his power. That's where he gets his, that's where he seeks his validation, is through his control over people, without a doubt. I see it. Coming from an addict mind, I know exactly, he saw the dangers of alcohol and drugs and everything, and with his brother, and probably had some bad experiences, so he went to the other direction. And his thing to get his satisfaction, to deal with his issues, is power. If you notice, Donald Trump, he demeans people in a sense, so that's where he gets his thing. It's that whole. And I know there's people out there, and I don't like to get political, but my observations of Donald from a addict's mind is that he gets his validation instead of from a bottle or from a needle. He gets his validation, his thing by putting people down. And, I'm better than you kind of mentality, which, goes hand in hand with most politicians and most people. I think they all act like that. I
like how you shared the example that there were all types of people when you went to rehab. Yeah. Because one of the comedians now and then I follow is Craig Ferguson, and he is a former recovering alcoholic. And he made a comment that a lot of people go to rehab, but they don't realize that true rehab begins once you leave rehab. Yep. And every morning you wake up and you make that conscious decision, I'm not going to drink.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, the secret of the 12-step program, going in the meetings, was when I felt lonely, when I felt the desire to drink, I would replace that I'd replace a negative with a positive. I'd go to a meeting. And then I felt the fellowship, and there was enough people around me to keep me from, to get me over that hump that I needed to get over. There's a lot of underlying, you got to remember, there's underlying reasons why people medicate. They have issues. My issues were that whole adequacy. Am I adequate? Am I who I need to be? One of the things to this day that I still have that has held me back in life is I hate taking tests. I can study. I ace every test I take when I take it, but I hate taking tests. And the reason being is because that's validation. That's instant validation. And I don't like that. I don't like, how do I say? I don't want to know that maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. And, you know, in the old days, Jeff would drink over that, or Jeff would do drugs over that. And that's how, but you learn to cope. And for me now, I just don't take tests. I just eliminate the things that, you know, there are in my profession. I do have to take them, unfortunately, but I do put them off as long as I possibly can. But and when I tell you, it's weird. You know, the mind is a really messed up thing if you think about it. Cause I ace I went back to college, and I aced every test that I took, and as an adult. And what was wild, Sandy, if I didn't get every answer right on the test, I was upset with myself. I mean, most people are like, hey, you got an A. No. A wasn't good enough for me. I had to know every answer, and I had to get every answer right. And when I remember back in school, when I took my first test that I didn't get 100%, I was really upset with myself. I'm like, oh, and Sandy's like, wait, you missed one question, Jeff. It's like, yeah, but that's one question I shouldn't have missed. I knew the answer. That's how we beat ourselves up. It's crazy. With the things we do, it's all self-imposed. You think, at the end of the day, do you think God really cares that you made a 98 on an advanced algebra test, that you missed the matrices? I remember, see, there you go. There's my mind thinking. I remember the question that I missed on the test. It was doing a matrices. And this is advanced mathematics. And, so enough of that. Can't go wrong with food is what someone said. Can't go wrong with food. Yeah. So I replaced my drug and alcohol addiction with food. There's no doubt about it. But at least I'm not a babbling idiot. I'm not in the corner drooling, and I'm not stealing from friends and family to feed my habits.
I'm just getting over the 5 bottles of Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
I mean, you had that high tolerance.
Yeah. I was drinking. Yeah. Without a doubt. I used to buy Jack Daniels by the 5th, and that was a day. I would drink a bottle of Jack Daniels by the day.
I don't know how you survived it. Like 5 a day, that's a lot. I
don't know how I did either, to be honest with you. I don't know how many times I drove a car drunk. I don't know. And I've gone to and spoken at Mothers Against Drunk Driving. Now that's one thing I will not do ever.
Because when I was younger, you all do it because we're stupid. You will drive for the first DUI that you get. You will drive 89 times. That's the standard. 89 times before you get caught for your first DUI. So there's 89 times that you have put someone, forget your life, because you know what? I don't have any sympathy for you. I'm sorry. I really don't. But that's 89 times that you have put someone else's life at risk. And, I've spoken at Mothers Against Drunk Driving about my experiences. But yeah, when I was younger, leave the bar drunk. You ain't going to stop me. I got to get home to my miserable life. The worst thing they could ever have done for this alcoholic was shut bars down. They should have just kept them open 24/7, and I would have stayed off the streets. So. But having those experiences, I'm sure you're also an expert at human behavior, because when you're an addict, you know how to work people to get what you want.
You do. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you do. You become an observer very easily. And you learn the buzzwords, and you learn how to manipulate people and how to manipulate. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I'm not bashful from it because it's part of my ministry. It's who I am. It's what I make. Or it's kind of, how do I say? I'm not proud of what I did. Not at all. But there is redemption. there is redemption, and maybe after the break, I will share with you how I redeemed myself, and because there is a process there. It's one thing to quit drinking and to quit drugging and to figure it out, but now you have to go and do this thing called atonement. You have to make it right, and maybe I'll share that with you, Sasha.
Yes.
That's when we get back from the break. So. This is turning into an interview of Jeff Norton, but join us. We'll be back.
I'm enjoying it.
We'll be back in a few minutes.
Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network. Midnight Ocean with Jeff Norton on the Paranormal State Radio Network.
That is right, Andrew. You are listening to the Midnight Ocean. And I am your host, Jeff Norton, as we cruise on in to the twilight hours. I just want to say thanks, everybody, for joining us tonight's show with our very special guest, Sasha, joining us. But you can join us here live every weeknight from 10 p.m. till 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or on the web at www.themidnightocean.com. Wow. What a night. I'm enjoying it. Nothing to hide here. as we talk. I think it's turned into an interview of Jeff Norton. Sasha, you've turned the tables.
But I'm enjoying it because how you're sharing your stories. One of the comments that you made the first time I appeared 3 weeks ago, I feel spoiled showing up twice in 1 month. It was when we were talking about energy, and I was talking about callers calling in and sharing their stories, and you just chimed in with a comment of, yeah, I have callers, and one of them would say, okay, what does this have to do with you not drinking? Now it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
With how you associate with some ideas and speech.
Yeah. There is an underlying thread there. I mean, absolutely. It's prolific, even though, it's been, I even stopped counting how many years I've been sober. I'm to that point because it's kind of, that's the other part of it too, is if you always keep it lurking in the past, eventually it might come back. And so I just got on with my life. But we talk about redemption. I have to take a pause here because this is a sensitive subject. And, and it's only fair. I asked some guests to be open and honest with me. And so I'll be open and honest with you. Redemption for me came through atonement, going back to the ones that we hurt and say, look, I'm sorry. Not making excuses. A lot of people go back and say, well, that wasn't me. That was the drug. That was out. Well, yeah, no, it was me. It was definitely me. It wasn't some, I am not, how do they say? I'm not split personality. That was definitely me. I'm an a-hole. And I'm sorry for that. That's step one. And truly mean it. And then step two is that when you make mistakes, admit it. That's the biggest thing, is that when you make a mistake, admit it. It may be in business or what. I'm going, personal experience. I was involved in a business venture that went south. All my partners declared bankruptcy and walked away from the debt. No, I didn't do that. And I'm not saying kudos to me for not, declaring bankruptcy or anything like everybody else did and walk away from their obligation. For my sanity and who I am as a person. And I think probably for my sobriety, I had to, because think about the image. Yeah, it's hard. It's rough. But instead of that, you talk about the negative energy, and it's kind of the topic of the show. You talk about, well, not negative, but energy in general and how it affects us. It's that whole boomerang thing. If you walk away, I guess some people can walk away from an obligation such as that, a business obligation, and go, I don't lose sleep over it because the bankers or the business or whatever. But, those bankers and those businesses have employees, and they had payroll that didn't get met or whatever. For me, I couldn't have that negative energy. So the positive energy is, hey, I can't guarantee that I'm going to take care of my obligations towards you. But what I can guarantee is I'll do my darndest. I'll do my best. And believe it or not, we've paid back every dime. Not only did we pay back every dime that was owed, but we paid back our, technically you can take what was owed and divide it amongst the partners. I even paid back their share.
Wow.
Yeah. So you tell me what energy you're going to carry with you with that one. And that's for me. And I'm sorry, it might be selfish. It might be whatever, but I thought of it in that light. I said, I can either carry this negative energy with me the rest of my life, knowing that I walked away from an obligation, a commitment that I made to a business who put their faith and their credit in my hands, their belief in me. Or I can walk away with the energy of, hey, I did what I was supposed to do. And, I did what I was supposed to do is such positive energy. And I think that's why our life is bountiful at this point. I honestly believe that's why, Sandy, our life, we are doing, it's that whole energy thing. We got rid of the negative and made it a positive energy. And we've been blessed. So redemption is first, atonement. And the second thing is you got to do what's right. You got to take negative energy in your life and replace it with positive. And the best way, if you hurt someone, for me, let them know. Say, look, I'm sorry. Right away. If you say ill words against someone, make it clear, apologize in front of whoever you said it to and the people that were around there too. You need to clear that up as well. If you're in a room and you call someone an a-hole or because you're lashing out, you need to make sure the same people are in the room with you when you apologize to them. For doing it. I mean, we're human. We all make mistakes, right? We all act impulsively at times. And that's my word. Oh, the other thing too, those that know me very well know that I don't hold back anymore. If there's something I don't agree with or I don't see, being in business or whatever, I will let you know right away. And I get all the time because my nature of my other business, my day job is I'm contracted through companies to work with other companies. And I can't tell you how many times I get in a phone call from the other company saying, look, you can't say that in a call. And I was like, yeah, I can. It's the truth. And what's really funny is the companies that I actually do the work for, they will ask for me directly because they'll say, we want Jeff on this project because we know that when he tells us something, it is the truth. You know how businesses sometimes though, I mean, I had this incident today where I'm like, look, I'm not getting paid enough. I told the customer this. I said, you're not paying me enough to sit on the phone with you working through these issues when I've got other customers here who are willing to pay my fee and then some. And of course, I go, well, you can't be telling customers. It's like, well, what do they think? They think I sit around and wait for them to call? No, I got other business and I got customers who are willing to pay twice as much for my services. And so I'm putting the customer on notice. Look, get your stuff together. And now, granted, there's a lot of delays in this one project, but those are the things I tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. And sometimes
that is a good thing because you're true to your character, but also you have the emotional intelligence that I'm pretty sure there's a time and place for doing it because I'm used to, especially when you work in the business world.
Yes.
Now and then I get my hands up for being too real in a fake world.
Yes.
And I get that subtle nudge of people will turn the other way, but they know deep down you're speaking the truth. And as long as you speak the truth, I believe the good karma will visit you when you need it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. And that's the thing is, like I said, you get the reputation of the guy that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And I'll tell him, I'm like, why would you do that? It's not going to work. It's not going to work that way. And you can, instead of buying this $100,000 piece of equipment, you can actually go out and buy a $5,000 piece of equipment, do the same thing. And, a lot of people are like, well, why would you do that? That's a, sale. It's like, but why be dishonest? Because they're going to find out anyways. You're going to sell them a product. And then you think that their search or their knowledge, maybe some people are that way, stops there. No, they're going to be at some conference and they're going to see the same pieces of equipment for $5,000. And what are they going to look at? They're going to look at me and say, hey, Jeff, you're the expert. And it's like, yeah, to me, that's just profiteering. I would rather say, no, that you can do the same thing with this. And I get in trouble all the time in business for doing stuff like that, where I'm just like, no, you don't need to spend that. You can do it. You can do it with the existing equipment you have. You just need to do it this way. instead of selling you a brand new piece of whatever. So, oh Lord, got another question. It's amazing how the good thing we and Evolved have going for us is that positive energy is much more powerful than negative energy. I'd be curious if you and Sasha agree with that. Oh yeah. Positive energy. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Positivity. I think the most challenging part about positivity or positive energy is just getting on the bandwagon and giving yourself a chance that things can get better and we are what we think. Yep. With negativity, oh my God, sometimes I come across people and I'm thinking it's hard for me to feel bad for them because they choose to mindfully hang on to that baggage. They just never let go.
Yeah. You know, for me, and I always see good in negative in everything. I do. I really do. And in this statement, here's the good. Negative energy always wants to seek out positive energy.
Yes.
So,
and it becomes problematic sometimes in
the
world of love and relationships that I help other people with.
Yep. Negative and sometimes it doesn't work out the way we want it to. But negativity always wants to seek positive. There's a reason why you feel crappy in the morning. There's a reason why when you do a crappy business deal that you don't feel good, unless of course you're a sociopath and don't have, or a psychopath and don't have a conscience. There's a reason why, because that negative energy wants to escape yourself. It wants to get out of your body. It wants to be replaced by positive energy. I've never heard someone who's positive go, "Oh, I want to go to the dark side." I want to be negative today. I've never heard a positive person get up in the morning and say, "Man, I'm cheery and I'm going to go kick my dog," or something like that. It's always, the negative person's always the person's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I have this? Why they want positivity in their life. Now, unfortunately, they're probably looking for the wrong positive reinforcement or the wrong positive. They always start out with, I need a better girlfriend. I need a better boyfriend. I need more money. I need a bigger house. I need a bigger car. I got to get rid of my kids, whatever it is. That's how negative people think sometimes. And that's with that thinking, you'll never achieve true positive because negativity will lead to other negativity.
I agree with you. Because there's a mindset in those people. It's like a seesaw relationship. Mm-hmm. Either they see a deficiency in their life or they want something because the grass is even greener on the other side. So I want a better man. I want a better woman. I want a better job. But they don't realize that if they're not grateful for what they do have at the moment, they're never going to be happy if you give them $1 million. They will always find something to complain about.
I can't tell you how many times people think, we all go through these phases. Sandy and I built a huge house in Wisconsin, a huge house, thinking whatever, because that's what we're supposed to do. So Sandy and I, so people that know the story, we got a great love story. So Sandy and I were high school sweethearts. We separated because of my being a buffoon. She went her way. I went my way. I've been married and divorced two different times. And then after I got my junk together and had my epiphanies and everything, we got